It's very common that we hear from vegetarians, "Oh, I'm already vegetarian. You don't need to try and convince me," when we try to advocate about animal rights. Concerningly, we also hear from our fellow vegans, "You shouldn't spend so much time condemning vegetarianism. Most vegetarians are just vegans at heart who don't realise, what they're funding." So I'd like to start this video by asking you a question. My question is, assuming you were a vegetarian, wouldn't the very existence of veganism make you question your own ethics? That is to say, are you really so sure that all these vegetarians are walking around genuinely, legitimately unaware that they're supporting the animal holocaust? As if veganism, the only philosophy that actively boycotts it, just doesn't exist, and they don't even know a single vegan or haven't come across the concept of veganism before? And if you are a vegetarian who's watching this, can you really say, truthfully, that you don't know what's going on? Now, the purpose of this video isn't for me to ask people to be a dick to vegetarians or to attack them. Whenever we make posts about vegetarianism, I often see a lot of comments from vegans saying we need to gently educate rather than attack. But what they're suggesting is actually exactly what I'm doing with this video. And the purpose of this video is to help vegetarians be truthful to themselves so that they can make the switch. Because the reality is, if they're not truthful to themselves, they're just gonna carry on pretending that they're doing the right thing. No one wants to be lied to. And if you're one of these vegans who thinks that we should not critique vegetarianism, you're the one who's being a dick to vegetarians. Because you're the one who's just going to allow them to keep going through life not acknowledging what they're doing, which in turn will make them responsible for the abuse and murder of more animals. No future vegan wants that. And indeed, I've had many vegans comment on my posts about vegetarianism and actually say stuff like, "God, I wish I had someone like you back when I was vegetarian to call out what I was doing." I'm making this video in light of recent experiences I've had at outreach demos where I talked to someone to engage in conversation with them about the footage that was showing, and they say, "Oh, don't worry, I'm already vegetarian." Now, when people say this, I actually give them the benefit of the doubt and just assume, naivety or innocence on their part. And I'll just follow it up with a question. So I'll just say, okay, so as a vegetarian, you're aware of the ethical implications as to why we wouldn't consume meat. Had you ever wondered though why a vegan would not buy wool, eggs, cheese and so on? And guess what? Whenever I ask that question, it's pretty much never the case that they say they don't know. That's right, they will often just respond to me asking that question by saying, "Oh, because it funds the same stuff," or "Oh yeah, because it's all part of the same industry." In case you haven't realised the significance of what I've just said, it's this. Most vegetarians are being completely disingenuous when they tell vegans, "Don't worry, I'm already vegetarian." That is to say, they know full well that what they're doing is the total opposite of veganism, and they're supporting the very acts that we're protesting against as animal rights activists. Now here's the thing. When this happens to me at demos, I still don't respond aggressively or start calling them any names or anything like that. Rather, I just speak to them like I would any other non-vegan who's stopping to speak to us about the footage that we're showing. Because that's what they are, a non-vegan. They're not someone who has anything in common with us with regards to animal rights. So what I will tend to do is just ask them more questions. So I'll say, okay, so you're aware of the implications behind buying these products like eggs and dairy and stuff. So what is it that's holding you back from making the switch and saying to yourself, "Do you know what, I'm gonna go vegan from now on"? And yeah, you know what, most of the time this method works fine. In fact, it happened to me very recently at a We the Free demo. And I said this kind of stuff to the woman after she had said, "Don't worry, I'm already vegetarian." And she took a card and she ended up just saying that, "Thank you, I just needed someone to give me that little kick up the arse that I needed." So again, please don't come in the comments and start talking about how I'm attacking people and so on. Because actually what I'm doing is helping vegetarians to acknowledge the reality and improve, which is what all future vegans want. Many vegetarians, however, are not future vegans, and despite what the apologists in the vegan community say, are simply not interested in ever going vegan. And yes, their actions should be scrutinised just as they would if it was a bacon eater. They're the same people. Stop pretending that they're practicing some sort of middle ground. See my video, Vegetarianism is the opposite of veganism, which I'll link below if you're still not convinced of this. But just to further convince you of the reality that most vegetarians know full well what they're doing, at least in developed countries, just look around you. Veganism has exploded into the mainstream. It's not just some obscure little hippie movement anymore like it was in the 70s and 80s. Everyone, and that includes every vegetarian, now has a vegan friend, a vegan family member, a vegan co-worker. Most have seen vegan demos and protests of some sort. They go into the main supermarkets and they see the massive vegan range taking up a quarter of the food aisle. People, meat eaters included, are ditching cow milks in favour of plant-based milks. Do you really think most vegetarians in countries like the UK and Germany and Canada are just completely oblivious to what they're doing? It's time to acknowledge the truth about vegetarians. To any vegetarians watching this, be true to yourself. Acknowledge that you're buying products that fund the same things as the people who eat chickens and cows fund. When you buy eggs, when you buy dairy, when you buy wool, you are supporting the enslavement and murder of these innocent beings. I know that, but most importantly, you know that. Be true to yourself. Make the change. Move forward. Contact me via any of my platforms if you need any help going vegan. And if you are a vegetarian who's watching this and acknowledges the truth of what I'm saying, I want to thank you for listening and being open-minded, because it's non-vegans like you who do change, instead of getting defensive and carrying on being stuck in their ways. Thanks again everyone. Please remember to like and share this video if you found it impactful and its message important. Subscribe to the channel, and if you value my activism and my content, consider helping me by supporting me on Patreon. Until next time.